Even in Illinois, where votes cast by dead men are the stuff of legend. Even in Illinois, where a horse path once built by a corrupt Chicago mayor in the 30s cost $1 million. Even in Illinois, where 3 of his 6 elected predecessors wound up going to the penitentiary. Even in Illinois, where Governor Rod Blagojevich was arrested today, charged with trying to sell the right to succeed the president-elect in the Senate and trying to muscle the Chicago Tribune and the Chicago Cubs. Even in Illinois, in our 5th story tonight, there rings out one single question, raised in unison on 1 million lips. Is this guy the dumbest SOB on the planet or the craziest? Governor Blagojevich, wakened by a phone call from the FBI this morning. The agent on the other end of the line telling him that a team of agents was on its way to arrest him. The governor asking the agent, quote, is this a joke? In the long term, yes, probably. Right now, not so much. It is more like a 77-page criminal complaint against the governor and his chief of staff, John Harris, filled with examples of how the men apparently tried to use their positions for professional and personal gain. Quoting the governor, from wiretap evidence about appointing a successor to the Senate, I've got this thing, and it's expletive golden, and I'm not just giving it up for expletive nothing, and I'm not going to do it, and I can always use it. I can parachute me there. That's right. If Governor Blagojevich did not get the price he wanted for the seat, his ace in the hole, he thought, was appointing himself. Federal prosecutor Patrick Fitzgerald, yes, that Patrick Fitzgerald, today calling the actions of the governor a new low, adding that the man who put Lincoln in the land of Lincoln would not be pleased.
The most cynical behavior in all this, the most appalling, is the fact that Governor Blagojevich tried to sell the appointment to the Senate seat vacated by President-elect Obama. The conduct would make Lincoln roll over in his grave.
That's the federal prosecutor Karl Rove wanted to fire, everybody. And is there any evidence that the president-elect himself was somehow involved?
There's no reference in the complaint to any conversations involving the president-elect or indicating that the president-elect was aware of it.
Governor Blagojevich himself seeming to indicate in one of the wiretaps that President-elect Obama was unwilling to participate in his money-making scheme. At one point, calling him a mother, shut your mouth, adding, they're not willing to give me anything except appreciation in exchange for an appointment. Expletive them. Last month, Obama's senior advisor, David Axelrod, had said that the president-elect did talk to Governor Blagojevich about his own replacement in the Senate. Today, the transition team saying that Mr. Axelrod misspoke. The president-elect himself saying he knew nothing. Well, first saying something that sounded all too familiar for comfort.
Obviously, like the rest of the people of Illinois, I am saddened and sobered by the news that came out of the U.S. Attorney's Office today. But as this is an ongoing investigation involving the governor, I don't think it will be appropriate for me to comment on the issue at this time.
Oh, no, not 4 more years of no commenting on ongoing investigations. Not that crap. That's not change we can believe in. Surely there's something the president-elect could say about his involvement without compromising Mr. Fitzgerald's efforts.
I had no contact with the governor or his office, and so I was not aware of what was happening. And as I said, it's a sad day for Illinois. Beyond that, I don't think it's appropriate to comment.
Now, was that so hard? Just yesterday, Governor Blagojevich having laughed off the possibility of wiretaps, adding that anything he might be caught saying would be entirely above board.
I think there's nothing but sunshine hanging over me. I appreciate anybody who wants to take me openly and notoriously, and those who feel like they want to sneakily and wear, taping devices. I would remind them that it kind of smells like Nixon and Watergate.
Well, speak for yourself, Governor. Within the Senate scandal, others that in any other context would be bombshells and a half, like a demand for kickbacks from kids' hospital programs. And the governor also on tape threatening to withhold state assistance to the parent company of the Chicago Tribune in its sale of Wrigley Field unless members of the Tribune's editorial board who had been critical of him were fired. Charges that the owner of the Tribune denies and the honchos of the paper say they knew nothing about. Time now to call in Clarence Page, Pulitzer Prize-winning syndicated columnist of the Chicago Tribune. Clarence, good evening.
Thank you, Keith.
We'll get to your paper and its tangential involvement in this disaster in a moment, but to the big question. Simply put, is this guy the stupidest SOB on the planet or the craziest?
Well, I think Robert Mugabe earns that honor in my view, Keith. But in this hemisphere, Rod Blagojevich is hard to beat.
He really is. I mean, it's such vintage corruption. It evokes Tammany Hall, or it sounds like Tom Pendergast, the boss of Missouri, who got Harry Truman started in politics. It makes Governor Kerner and Governor Walker and Governor Ryan look like saints.
The big difference between Blagojevich and those folks you just named is he was so careless about it. And also, these charges we're talking about all happened in the last month or two. We've had 4 years of Blagojevich's associates getting indicted or convicted, 13 of them altogether. He's been under investigation. It's been in headlines in our paper and elsewhere, and yet he behaves like this, according to what Fitzgerald says, has been caught on tape. It's just unbelievable.
But did he not realize that it's no longer 1928, it's 2008? I mean, how in the world did he think in this day when there are such things as wiretaps and videotapes and all the rest, that nobody would turn him in and somehow he'd get away with this? That's the part that seems to make no sense, not that he got caught.
Well, truly, I've been covering Chicago politics off and on for several decades now, and normally the rule of thumb is always talk as if the person you're talking to is wearing a wire. In Blagojevich's case, he seemed to just think he was immune, and like that soundbite you were just talking about yesterday, he was sounding like Gary Hart, well, more brazen than Gary Hart, just saying, go ahead, follow me, wiretap me. People say there's a cloud over my head. There's nothing but sunshine over my head. Well, turns out people have been wiretapping him and eavesdropping on him, and we're hearing the results.
To the other end of this, about a month ago, the president-elect very loudly bowed out of the internal scramble over who would succeed him in the Illinois Senate seat. Were these his political instincts in play, or do we think he knew this was coming?
Well, he knew something was coming because you could see a pattern of distancing himself from Blagojevich for months now through the campaign. Blagojevich was the only major Democratic governor who didn't get a speech, any kind of platform at the Democratic convention, various other places along the campaign. The Obama campaign has been trying to treat Blagojevich like a non-entity out there. So, it was no secret that he was under investigation and might possibly get indicted.
Yeah, but nobody could have imagined this. Lastly, Clarence,
yeah, right.
To the Tribune, do you know anything about this? Did anybody at the paper know anything about this and that aspect of all of it?
None of us on the editorial board knew about this. I saw it like you did probably, reading the internet, and I almost spit out my morning coffee. I was just, I thought it was a joke. And Bruce Dole, our editorial page editor, says that, and it's quite true. I mean, Sam Zell told all of us when he took over the paper that he wasn't going to go meddling in editorial policy, and he has not. As far as anybody being punished, everybody knows we've had layoffs at our paper, like a lot of media properties, but none on the editorial board during this period in question. So it's just, I don't know, a lot of hot air being blown out there, I think, and it got picked up on FBI tapes.
Clarence Page, Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist from the Chicago Tribune. Great thanks, and please ask them to start testing the groundwater at the Capitol. Something's wrong out there.
You got it, Keith.